Welcome back to Talking Federal Business. I'm Nick Vlahovic, consultant to industry. If you like this video, then please click like, and even better yet, subscribe to my channel. Today, I'm going to talk about the ways you can do business with federal agencies without having a government contract. That's right, you can do business with the federal government and federal agencies without a contract in place. Most people think you have to have a GSA contract or GSA schedule, that's General Services Administration schedule, in place in order to do business with federal agencies if the GSA has a GSA schedule program for your industry. And that's just not true. Now, what is true is that if you have a GSA contract, it is easier for agencies to do business with you, but it is not a requirement. So I'm going to share with you the different ways that agencies can go about doing business with you and vice versa without having a contract. And I'm going to take you through them from the most simple to the most sophisticated. Now, why would you be interested in using one of these strategies? Well, the first reason would be, let's say you just want to test the waters. You want to test the waters on doing business with federal agencies with very little risk and very little investment. That'd be a really good reason to use one of the more simple strategies I'm going to share with you. Another reason would be, let's say you're a company that wants to develop something, a product, and you think it has federal government applications as well as commercial applications. That would be a good reason to approach a federal agency, the DoD, for example, for money to help develop your product. So I'm going to share with you the ways under both those scenarios you can do business with the federal government without having that GSA schedule in place. So here we go, and here's the list. The first way is called Sam.gov. www.sam.gov. If you've been around a while with doing business with the federal government in any way, or if you've just heard about it, you've heard of Sam.gov. Sam.gov is the government's main point of entry for federal agencies to do business for products and services, to advertise for products and services. Anything advertised out on Sam.gov is something that is advertised in a way that is not meant to be purchased off of an existing contract or GSA schedule. The GSA has another GPE, another point of entry for advertisements when agencies want to purchase off of their GSA schedule program. So by definition, when anything is out on Sam.gov, it's the intent of that agency to purchase off of the open market. In other words, without a contract in place or a GSA schedule in place. And I can tell you that since I've been monitoring Sam.gov for years, I've seen many awards go to companies for products and services in industries where there is a GSA schedule program, but go to companies that do not have GSA schedules. So Sam.gov is a great place to go in order to begin testing the waters on doing business with federal agencies. The second strategy for you would be for you to consider doing micro purchases. A micro purchase is a level of doing business with the government. It's actually under $10,000. That underneath which the federal agency has wide latitude in how they make the decision. It's basically set up so that it makes government easy to do business with. We don't want a lot of bureaucracy for small purchases, right? Of course we don't. So anything under $10,000, the federal government, the federal agency, can pretty much just make a decision. In other words, just go buy it. They can just call somebody up, get a presentation, and order it. It can be that simple. A lot of these micro purchases happen on government credit cards, and a lot of these micro purchases are advertised out on Sam.gov. So you kind of following me there? It's a good idea to make micro purchases a strategy because there are thousands of government credit cards in the federal government. And if you can get a hold of agency lists of government credit card holders and start marketing towards them, that can add up to quite a bit of business. Any federal government consultant can help you get a hold of those lists, including this government consultant. So consider that if you want to have that as a strategy. So micro-purchase is a great way to go. The next strategy for you to consider is prime sub, prime contractor, subcontractor. Basically what it is if you want to be a subcontractor, you seek out a company, a prime, that is already doing business with a federal agency under an existing contract. For example, an existing contract could be somebody that has a GSA contract. In other words, a contract with the GSA that allows them to do business with all federal agencies. Or it could be a contract with a company that has a specific contract in place with another specific agency, separate from the GSA, maybe with the FAA or the Department of Homeland Security. In any event, under either scenario, you target the agency you're interested in doing business with, and then you identify the companies that are doing business with that agency as prime contractors, and then you market yourself to them, and they'll be interested in talking to you if they believe that there is a need for your industry and that they could provide it for them as a good business move for them through their existing contract. Prime sub relationships are a very, very, very common relationship strategy in the federal government market that companies use for various business reasons. And it is a great way, like the first two strategies I mentioned, for you to be able to test the waters, to learn, and to not have as much risk as you would have if you were a prime contractor, and also not as much of an investment. So again, if you're interested in seeking out prime contractors and want to know how to identify them, any consultant, including this one, can help you do that. The fourth strategy for you to consider is what's called an unsolicited proposal. An unsolicited proposal is just that. Let's say you are targeting a federal government agency and you happen to notice a hole in the floor. That's a metaphor, of course, but something that isn't working right. Well, you're allowed to submit a proposal to them for them to consider you in fixing it. Now, the Federal Acquisition Regulation actually has a section in it, FAR Part 15, that addresses how the unsolicited proposal process works. It's actually very simple. I'll describe it to you. You approach the agency, you mention to them that about the hole in the floor, the issue that you've discovered, and that your best-in-class solution can fix it, and that you'd like to submit an unsolicited proposal. You have a dialogue with them because obviously you don't want to submit the proposal if it's not thought of as a good idea. But once they green light you submit your unsolicited proposal, and great things could happen. So unsolicited proposals are a very common strategy, but not very well known about until now. So good luck with you if you make unsolicited proposals part of your business strategy with the federal government. The fifth strategy for you is what's called Broad Agency Announcement, BAA. The BAA program is the answer to your question. I'm sure you're thinking about this one all night long when you're awake with insomnia. How does the government go about getting research done? Well, the answer is through the BAA program. Broad agency announcements are advertisements put out on Sam.gov by agencies who want to get research done, and they define research as getting answers to things that they don't even have a very good scope of work for. So BAAs are specifically called that out on Sam.gov, and you basically set up your searches under BAAs and by agencies that you're interested in, and you keep an eye on for them, and You respond to RFPs like you would for any RFP, and don't have to have a GSA schedule for it, of course. So broad agency announcement is another great way to be able to do business without having a contract in place. The sixth way to do business with federal agencies is focused specifically for small businesses. And it's a fairly new program. It goes by two acronyms, SBIR, STTR. And that stands for Small Business Innovation Research, Small Business Technology Transfer. This is a program meant to unleash research and knowledge within small businesses and transfer that knowledge in between and to and back with higher education, basically. And it's focused just for small businesses, which makes it different than the broad agency announcement program, because any size company can respond to BAAs. But the SBIR STTR program is only for small businesses, because small businesses, of course, as we all know, innovate, and the federal government is trying to leverage that. So grants can be awarded up to $1.2 million under the SBIR STTR program. The website is an excellent place for resources. That's where the advertisements are promoted, and there's also a search engine within the site where you can search for your locality to find companies that are already in the program, so you can find out from them how they like it and if they'd recommend you get into the program. So I recommend you consider the SBIR STTR program. That's strategy number 6. Strategy number 7 is what's called the non-FAR contract. So the first 6 strategies I mentioned to you are covered by the federal acquisition regulations. Well, the federal government wanted to continue to find ways to be as like the private sector as possible and leverage innovation as much as possible. So they decided to develop a program of contracting with companies called the non-FAR contract. And this is a contracting program that is not covered, or I should say even policed, by the federal acquisition regulations. The purpose of the program, as I mentioned, is to unleash creativity at very little regulatory overhead, and to attract companies that wouldn't necessarily be interested in doing business with the federal government, specifically for the reason that I just mentioned. Agencies have various tools to get research and experiments done, to do prototyping, get projects done, and work collaboratively with companies in ways that collaboration could not have been done under a FAR-based contract. So the non-FAR-based contract is a very fascinating and exciting strategy the federal government has put into place. And if you want help on that, you can reach out to a consultant, of course, or you can also just approach your acquisition professionals at your agencies you are already doing business with or you are targeting, because they are the ones who understand non-FAR-based contracting. Okay, so that's it. Those are the 7 strategies. I hope they are helpful to you. I want to thank you for joining. If you liked this video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like, and even better, please click subscribe. I'm Nick Vlahovic, consultant to industry. We'll see you on the next one.